This is Episode 1, Naming the Podcast. Before our recording session at I Create Sound Studios, I met with my friend, recording artist and lead singer of the progressive rock band, Lobate Scarp. I want to put a spotlight on what it's like to be creative in a world that's often afraid to be different. Join us as we share our unique ways of working, living, and seeing the world. This is the Language of Creativity podcast. Righto. Well, hello, Adam.
Oh, hello, Steve Levitt.
This is my podcast.
Hello, welcome to it.
I'm sure there was a cool title sequence bumper at the beginning, but I don't know what it's called yet as of now, so...
I like the title. I know already. I'm psychic.
Cool. What is it? You could tell me.
Well, it's in another language.
Oh, okay.
It's in Latin.
It's in another language. That might be a good podcast name right there. If your mic's falling down,
the language of creativity. I don't know.
The language of creativity.
I don't know. I'm just coming up with it.
I love it.
Language of, yeah. Just put that in one of the lists. Language of, because you want to talk about creativity and how it affects. Well, why don't you say what it's about since you're the creator of it?
I think this podcast is going to be a bit of a mashup between a lot of things that I'm interested in. One of which is the unseen, being somebody who is musical. I am also very sensitive to the subtler things in life. So I'm sure you can relate to that. Like when you're musicking because you feel it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's something that you tap into that's out of this world.
Right.
So I can probably say that almost every musician on the planet has experienced some version of that in their life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like when you're being creative, when you write something, you're like, it's almost like you didn't write it. I feel like a lot of times, like when I write my songs, I feel like, where did that come from? And I feel like it didn't come from me, not specifically, like a little bit came from me. I wouldn't say like maybe a percentage of maybe like 20% me and then 80% of the sea of tranquility or the sea of creativity, sea of consciousness
yeah.
That's out hanging around the top of the 11th dimension or something.
Yeah, to get instantly mystical in this podcast. Right. Yeah, it's kind of like, if you take that idea of we are the universe experiencing itself as human, then what if our experience in life is the channel by which that expression of art comes through to the world?
That. So you're going to be talking a little bit about cosmology and spirituality and like philosophy through art. Yeah,
well, and also practically too. I mean, like, in terms of like, I've been told philosophy is extremely impractical, but I think that philosophy helps you approach life in the best way. If your philosophy is one that aligns with who you are, I think your philosophy can inform what it is that you're doing so that you're making certain choices above others because you realize, like one of my philosophies now in the last, 5 to 10 years is that time is my only non-renewable resource. So like I can always invent a way to come up with more money. So anything can happen, right? Somebody could give you $1,000 tomorrow, anything is possible. But as far as we know, there's only, in this life experience, there's only a finite amount of physical heartbeats that you have. And that in terms of this current, like if you believe in other universes or other lifetimes or whatever, in terms of this current lifetime that you're here and the idea of you only have one life to live, I think that is a valuable idea in some moments to understand that, you don't want to waste your time doing something that is not meaningful to you.
Right. Yeah. So many people do. So many people do that to get by, to feed their family, to as they work their job to for a means to an end.
Well,
but
and I
the
suppose
end is you die, and then there's no other chance that we know of to try it again.
Well, I guess that it's funny to hear you say it that way, because then I think, well, I don't want to minimize working for your family, right? Because that's also part of the wheel of life, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like, there are things you have to do to get by.
There's got to be a way to do what you love and supply for your family.
Yeah, I think that's
and your life.
I think that's the underlying question.
Yeah,
I think that in essence for me is what drives me to write and publish, which has been kind of more of a focus of mine lately, is this itch to, do a podcast or things like that, because I am looking at different ways that people could and have successfully got off that hamster wheel we call modern life and created meaning through what they're able to do in the world. And I want to see the artists that I know and the art that I personally am involved with make an impact, full on Steve Jobs dent in the universe style, do something that has meaning and value.
Right.
And I think that's just about every artist is striving to create that, right?
Yeah. I really feel that, that's what art is. Art is to, people, it's to relate to other people, and every artist wants their work to make an impression on somebody, if not the world, to make the world a better place is the end all be all, is the or to influence, to make things better, to make people's lives better, happier. It just could be something very simple, like you just made someone's day because you wrote one song, and it just it feels good as an artist. It feeds back into you. It makes you feel good. You're giving, and it feels like you're doing good in this world.
I remember that was my favorite feedback of the Don't Call a Story showcase that I used to do with Shannon Hurley.
I remember that. Yeah,
that was such a cool thing, because I actually had people come up to me that was like the only time they had ever been to the showcase, and our focus was twofold. First was the audience, and second was the artist. So we wanted to serve the artists and make them happy, but first we had to serve the audience. So this is the number one underlying motivator or guiding light. Somebody came up to me after a show and was like, hey, I didn't know about this before, but the music that was at this showcase made me have a better day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like that, I think, is what every artist, musical artist or visual artist or any kind of artist, most of them would like to hear something like that. I think that would make their day. Yeah, man, that was a great. That's where I met you. That's right. Story. I believe it was it at that coffee house? Karma Coffee House. It is now a burger joint in the middle of Hollywood. It's a really good burger joint. It's a really great burger joint. We went to that burger joint too. We did, yes. Yeah. So, sad to see Karma go. Happy about the good burger joint. They have great beer too. Beer. Sorry for all you abolitionists, not abolitionists. Sorry, rewind that. Sorry for all you prohibitionists out there and vegans. I can't wait till I get beer. I haven't been drinking beer. Diane and I, my girlfriend, for those of you who don't know, we've been doing a no carbs, no sugar diet. Oh, wow. So that includes beer. It's because it's very grainy. Beer is like sugar factory. Sugar factory. Yes. But yeah, with the grains. Yeah. But birthday month is coming. And so you've been saving up for birthday month, so you'll be a cheap date. We're gonna get a lot of beer. Yeah. We're gonna stock our fridge. We're gonna go out, drink a lot, eat some pizza. That sounds amazing. That we don't normally eat. So yeah, that sounds like all stuff I can't do anymore. My body's just like, no. And you can't do the dairy, right? I can't do dairy. My feet itch when I drink alcohol now. So there's something going on with that. And yeah, if I wanted to, I can still have pizza if I don't have, if I have vegan cheese on it. So I'm learning moderation by the forced method. It's been better for my waistline, though.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about beer. I was trying to think, how did we get into this tangent? Oh yeah. So Karma is what used to be.
Yes.
So now where they have excellent burger and beer used to be the Karma Coffee House, where you were one of the co-creators. And you were the sound mixer as well, right?
Yeah, I was.
Don't Call Us Tori.
Some people, got to talk to me, like for 2 seconds in between me running around trying to make sure people got on stage. And we also did like a live webcast. This guy named Jacob did a radio thing called Indie Airplay, and they used to actually not very many people know this, but used to simultaneously stream. Back in the day when very few people knew what podcasts were. He was the first person who told me about podcasting, and I was like, what's that? So Don't Call Us Tori, it was pretty much guaranteed that, sort of like this unwritten rule that if we had 24 people in the room in the physical coffee house, which wasn't very big, we would have another 24 people online. Like most times, it was somewhat of a mirror of what we had in the room, which was pretty interesting.
Why do you think that was? It was just a coincidence, or is there a science behind that?
I just chalk it up to
each person told their moms, and then their moms tuned in.
I mean, on a rational level, I'm sure that a lot of the artists would tell their fan base that they would have, but I just sort of chalk it up to more like the mystery of life. Like when I was in the movie business, we had this adage, and it was true because I have multiple anecdotal, personal, and friends evidence that this was true and verifiable. We could probably get it in a peer-reviewed study that if you book a vacation and you're an actor or you're a stuntman or you're in the film business, you will get a job. The big job, the one that comes right in the middle of your vacation. It's going to pay your bills.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I used to joke that if you want to work, plan a vacation.
Oh, that's so true. I was driving to Arizona. When I first moved to LA, I was doing background work, and I was registered. I guess it was through Central Casting, and I was driving to Arizona. I was visiting my grandma and my uncle, and I get a call like, "Hey, we need you to work tomorrow. We need a double. It's a 4-day shoot."
Oh no!
It was a union shoot, so it ended up being the Matrix. It was for the MTV Movie Awards. It was.
So did you drive all night?
The Matrix spoof with Will Ferrell, and I was supposed to be Sean William Scott's photo double.
Did you pull a Celine Dion, a Cadillac commercial, and drive all night?
So I stayed one night at Arizona. I was going to stay for 3 nights. So I stayed one night. I drove all the way there 5 hours, and then drove all the way back the next day, super early, 6 a.m. And then I got there. I don't think it started in the afternoon. So I basically got there in time.
Lucky you.
So
rock and roll.
Yeah, and it was a great job. It was really cool. And
I remember that too. That was freaking hysterical.
But it's no, of course they're calling me now.
I am the architect.
Yeah, it's so good.
I have also designed several other video games like Qbert and Dig Dug.
Yeah, oh, you remember that.
I didn't make Frogger, but I did name it.
When I was walking...
Can you believe that they were about to call it Highway Crossing Frog?
You what? Wow, you remember that? How do you remember that?
I have this weird brain that traps random stuff.
That is super impressive because I was like, holy shit. That is the funny thing is when I first walked into the studio, that Will Ferrell was improvising on all that. He was... So I got to see him. As soon as I walked in, that's what he was doing. He was up incredible. On the ledge, being the architect, and I was like, "Holy shit!
This is for real.
This is awesome."
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of the Matrix,
and I got to meet the Keymaster, the real Keymaster. Because he was in the spoof as well. Gosh,
I'm gonna out myself here, but my mom rode the motorcycle that Trinity had the Keymaster on the back.
Right, that's
on
right.
Matrix Reloaded in the freeway chase.
That's amazing.
So yeah. But man, what a mind bender that was. That series of movies was like philosophy in a can.
I love The Matrix. I love all 3 of them. I mean, the first one was a masterpiece.
The first one is hands down the best.
But I dig what they did for the second or third one. They're not without their problems, but I thoroughly enjoy them.
I actually think, I mean, as a philosophy lover, I actually never really studied philosophy in school, but I consider myself philosophical. I could kind of get where they were trying to go with a lot of the different points, like determinism with the Merovingian and all. I thought it was very, very interesting.
Exactly. They pretty much touch upon like every religion and every major philosophy in that movie. It's really interesting, and they kind of put it all together.
Yeah.
And I like how you watch the first movie and then you watch the second and the third movie. It kind of opens your eyes a little more, and you're like, oh shit. So I thought I knew what was happening in the first movie,
right,
but I really didn't. There's a bigger picture, and that whole philosophy kind of just speaks out.
You thought like you were the one.
You thought you were the one.
Really, one of seven.
Right.
And
we think we're the only living beings in the universe, but it's way bigger than we could possibly imagine. We think there are 200 billion galaxies.
It's a great big universe, and we're all really puny. We're just tiny little.
But we could all be just one universe in a multi-universe.
We could, and I think the multiverse theory has really blown a lot of people's minds. I remember that universe used to mean like galaxy back in old school physics, because there was no concept of galaxies per se. You just look out and see stars. So, universe was all the stars. But
they didn't know. They thought they were maybe other planets or other suns, or they didn't know that some of those stars that we see in the sky are actually whole galaxies.
It's amazing. And you zoom in and you see, I mean, I've been to Griffith Observatory, and they're like, okay, in this little like 1 foot square on this like 100-foot wall, this little cluster of light is a galaxy, and they zoom it out, and you're like, what? That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It's insane.
But then you think about, one of my favorite pieces was that in the TED Talk where they were doing computer models of dark matter. And when they zoom it out, their model of the universe between all the galaxies, there's like these fingers or like little channels of dark matter that run, and they look like neurons.
Right. Yeah. It's not the dark matter, but it's it's actually just the way the galaxies are lined up.
Oh.
So those are the actual galaxies. They form clusters, and so those clusters themselves look like neurons in the brain.
Yeah. So it's possible that the universe is conscious, and it's just a large brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're a large brain and people talk about other dimensions. So, maybe the top of that 11th dimension is, the outward appearance of the being that we're enclosed inside.
Yeah. Some people, I hear some people's minds exploding right now. Like, okay, I'm going to go like make some coffee or something.
But dark matter, I love this whole thing about dark matter, because you can't see dark matter and dark, what's the other one?
Dark energy.
Dark energy. Dark energy is a cool thing, because dark energy is what keeps the galaxies together. Because without dark energy, the stars and the galaxies would kind of would keep on, because galaxies are actually, the whole universe is spreading apart.
Yeah.
So but the galaxies are still they're together, even though they're all going apart from each other. The galaxies are still being held together. They still kind
of cluster together as a galaxy.
Yeah.
They don't just dissipate into like stardust.
It's because in between each galaxy, which accounts for most of the universe, like 96% of the universe, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to recall this from Cosmos, but I believe it's like something like that, and the dark energy in between the galaxies are what is keeping them together. But I feel, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with this theory, but they talk about the fifth dimension. Like, I feel like the dark energy is just something that we can't see. It's in another dimension. It's an upper dimension, and that's what's holding our stuff together. It's as if I'm holding a ball in my hand, and my hand is the fifth dimension. My hand is the dark universe Is the Dark Universe
the whole
is the
world in
exactly
his hands. He's got the,
is that where that comes from?
maybe, yeah. I mean,
But
on
yeah.
some level, are we just like having the kindergarten level understanding of cosmology when we do religion?
Right.
That's Sorry to interrupt with a whole nother stream of modality, but
this is where you're. This is what you want to do. Is this like kind of like what the podcast is going to be?
Exactly like what the podcast is going to be. This is amazing.
I'm glad to have helped.
Yeah, I need to cut back on my use of the word amazing though, because my wife says that it's like too much hyperbole equals no hyperbole.
Okay.
But yeah, it's amazing. I'm just going to say there's a fine. Mashing up of science and philosophy and
artistry
religion and art
and
as amazing.
And you were talking about earlier before we were talking about doing this podcast, you were talking about modernizing things,
modernizing the methods we use to make music, art,
right,
commerce.
But making money, like the goal is to end up making money doing something you love. I guess we just talked.
Well, it's
we
not
talked
even
about it
and I wouldn't
beginning.
even use the word money just because so much is even going to change in that front. I mean, 200 years from now, we may not even be using money.
We're going to be using bitcoins.
We could be, or some derivative of that, some other fall off of that. Blockchain could become useful for.
Right.
Other things besides tracking transactions. I think there will always be an exchange of value and energy, but I think part of the thing that we touched on, we were talking before the podcast, was that sometimes artists get so distracted by the idea of making the money with their art that they spend all of their mental wheels and all of their creativity on the scheming to monetize what it is they're doing. And maybe that's not what they're best at. So my hope is, that I put my heads together with other smart people who kind of see the trends of what's going on and maybe find some ways to make creating art sustainable, right, so that it's a part of your lifestyle that you can easily do and that it generates benefit. So I would say money would be a part of that for sure. Is necessary part of it, especially right now. But, I think music has always been this communal, tribal, people building thing. And, I feel like I've always been really at home in the studio, which ironically is a little more of an introverted version of that. You kind of make it in this little bubble and then you release it. And that's kind of what I'd like to personally crack, is like, how do we get back to the old days of great studio records? Because that's my personal professional love, is studio records.
Right.
I mean, obviously I if you've heard Adam's first album, Time and Space by Lobate Scarp, that was a quintessential studio album. I mean, we made that, over 5 years, and it took a lot of, we perfected that Steely Dan style. I mean, that was,
if you had a label, if we had a label behind us, then we could easily get it done in maybe 6 months.
In 6 months or less, because you would have so much more resources with which to just block yourself in and do it. And I think that was the interesting thing about you that I really love, is that you're so in it. You're so in your art that you're just, you'd work and then you'd be like, all right, here's another $100, here's another $1,000. Let's chunk at it. And you didn't give up. Like most people, their staying power on music is like, maybe they feel like, I don't know, like the world owes it to them to discover their talent and that somebody's just going to pour all this money into them. Yeah. I don't know if that's not really how it works anymore. I'm not going to say that's not how it could work for somebody, because certainly, law of attraction, right? You can create, you can attract to yourself what you want. But I mean, along those lines, I think the most people are in the awareness of focusing on what they don't have. And I think maybe that's the key, is like, instead of trying to say, the music business is fucked up, like it's not working, like, I can't get any fans, whatever. Like, look at where be present in this present moment and look at the landscape and go, okay, we live in a time where I could literally sing a song right now and put it up on YouTube, SoundCloud, whatever, it doesn't matter. I could do something artistic and instantly have access to the entire world. Is everybody going to find it? Who knows? But can anyone, for all intents and purposes, most people on the planet get to that instantly? Hell yes. And that is staggering, right?
Right.
When in history was that ever possible?
Right.
It's amazing.
The days of old, the music industry is not like it was, that's for sure, so it's everything's different. We have to go with the times. We have to change things up.
Yeah, but also, my passion is, like I said, all old school records, and those don't get made on GarageBand. You don't, if you're Prince, maybe you make a really stinking great demo with all the instruments at once, but most people need some degree of professionalism in what they do, and they don't have the money, or they don't think they have the money. And, I'm hoping to, maybe find ways around that, find ways to maximize the return that someone would get for a short period of professional help, kind of like what we did on your record. I mean, Rich Mauser, who did one of your favorite albums, Spock's Beard 5, and many of the Spock's Beards from then, when it was time for us to mix, I'm like, well, out of anyone in the world, who would you want to have mix it? You were like, Rich Mauser.
Yeah.
And I remember, and this is a funny story, I may have told you, I don't think I've told very many people, but I remember just kind of having this knowing that we needed to mix your album on a real console in a big studio.
Nice.
And I even had a picture in my head of what the studio looked like. It had this like visual that I kind of, dimly lit. I'm not a super visual person, so imagine like looking through a dirty window, right? Like I kind of had this like imagination of what I pictured the place that we mixed your album like looking like. And when you said Rich Mauser, you're like, I don't even know how to get a hold of him.
Yeah, and the most bizarre thing is I didn't even know he lived so close. I didn't even know he lived in the same state.
Yeah.
I didn't know where he lived.
I was like, let's look him up. Why not? Like, what's the harm in looking and putting that intention out there that, hey, we could find what we want. And I remember I was looking and finding his website and then finding out he lived right away. And then just like, you're like, Steve, what do we do? I was like, I don't know. Let's send him an email, right?
Yeah, we just sent him an email and said what we were doing, and we're just starting off, and I told him, I love your mixes, we're going for something huge and epic like this, and I love how your mixes are, every instrument has its own place, in the mix, and everything is so clear, and I just basically said I love your mixes, and I would. What would it take for us to work with you and to mix this album, to make it, to finish it, to complete it?
Yeah, and it was amazing because we got to go there and sit with him and see his space, which is incredible. And I think it was one of those moments for me where I was like, oh, wow, like this is exactly what I had pictured. And I didn't know why I was picturing that. I just knew that felt like the right thing for your project. And he ended up mixing the record, and it was phenomenal. It was fan-freaking-tastic.
Oh, yeah.
And, but one of the things that I want to talk about is, what was it like for you, kind of doing the DIY budget kind of thing, now all of a sudden working with a Rich Mauser who charges what he charged
right
per day.
Right.
What did it take for you to expand your mindset beyond where you were and to where you wanted to be?
It all seemed to fall together because I was, at the time I was acting, I was doing commercials, and when I first started Time and Space, I was writing, I was like in my house, I was just like writing a bunch of stuff, and then I finally got that one big commercial, my very first commercial out here, and that allowed me to work less on my day job, serving job, and
restaurant.
Yeah. I used to work at the Macaroni Grill. It's no longer there.
They used to sing. I used to take my wife
yeah,
there.
I was the opera singer, And I got lots of stories, so we'll have to do multiple podcasts because
I think this is
like
amazing.
20 minutes.
Yeah, well, at least it won't be 3 hours.
So you'll have to have me back at some point.
I'm going to do a formula,
Okay.
like the amount of time you intend something to take versus when it's creative versus what it balloons into. It's pretty much predictable. I think we could multiply times. Let's see, 20 times 4 would be what?
Carry the one.
Yeah, I don't know math number. I'm sure there's a formula.
So at the beginning of the podcast, you'll be like, welcome to this 10-minute podcast, and then it ends up being like an hour.
10. That's an exaggeration factor of 10. I think it's more like, maybe 30 or 40 minutes, maybe
okay.
50.
Yeah, that's a good like a sitcom length.
Yeah.
Get you have like a laugh track and everything.
Yeah. But I'll insert one right here.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. But so I was I got this big job that allowed me to not work as much and get rehearsal spaces, get my band together, and then start recording the album, which was fantastic. So that helped me out, and then a few years later, when I got another big commercial, that allowed me to finish it up. And if it wasn't for that commercial, I mean, maybe Rich would be able to work with me. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to, I don't know. The circumstances were different. Actually, like I had the money, I saved up the money, and I was like, okay, let's just make this the best it could possibly be. And it turned out he was absolutely the right guy to go to.
Totally the right guy. Yeah.
And
100%.
And it was great when we produced Beautiful Light a couple years ago. That was amazing because not only did he get the mix, but he also got to co-produce with you, which was great. That was a really great energy for that song. That turned out to be better than any track on the first album.
Yeah.
And
it's probably we hope a sign of what the rest of the album will turn out like.
Yeah.
But actually, I'll let you finish, and then I wanted to ask you a question about that.
Yeah. Well, so basically right now, where I'm at is, I have some money saved up, but to finish the whole album, that would be difficult without doing some sort of, like a peer raising, like a, what do you call it? Crowdfunding thing. So that's going to happen soon.
We did a crowdfunding,
and we did.
And I wanted to ask you about that
was great
this is
too.
A bit of more
that
of
helped
that
as well.
Deeper level of things, right? So we did a really focused effort at doing a really well designed campaign,
right?
But we were asking for a lot of money, right? And of course we didn't make it. That didn't happen for you. So how did you deal with that? What did you learn from that? Like,
I mean, it was rough. It was because I put in so much work into that when we did, and you did, and everyone involved. We hired a
videography company, which was absolutely a good move.
They were great, and
yeah,
they edited it and put it all together, and we got a great video. Does it matter how great your video is to introduce? I mean, it probably does matter to a certain extent, but as far as like budgetary constraints,
I don't think we had the reach.
There's not a formula. Yeah, I think it might have been the reach.
I think you definitely had the right video if you're trying to reach the kind of people you were going to reach, but either there was something that wasn't resonating, or simply just not enough people saw it within the time of the campaign.
Right.
And that's where you get into the really tricky metrics. I mean, I looked into this a couple times, and it seems like
we aimed
that's
high,
where
we did pretty good. I mean, we raised what did we raise, like 13,000 or something like that?
Yeah, this was
really
we
asked
impressive.
For like 25,
25, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
which we needed,
which is reasonable for the album that we're trying to do.
Right, we're trying to do some big things, but yeah, a lot of people said go smaller, and it was like, I remember I think it was you who said, I don't really want to do that, because if I raise the money and then we can't make the record we want to make, then we're not making a shittier record.
I don't want to make I don't want to make only half an album. I don't want to make a shitty whole album. Or half of a awesome, like, few tracks, because the whole idea was that the whole concept was going to be not necessarily that it was a concept album, but it was a lineage of tracks that, when put together, make a whole make the whole,
Yeah.
in my mind anyway.
I think so. I mean, I really think there's a culmination that you're trying to create with your final song on the record, and I think it's amazing. And I mean, that's one of the things I really admire about prog in general is that there is a whole. It's like orchestral music where there's movements and there's pieces of a story that sort of evolve and become something, and you can't just take it in isolation very often. I think it's a whole experience, and that in itself is maybe kind of a not, I wouldn't say a dying art. It's kind of a reviving art is the concept album. I mean, there's a lot of groups now that when they do it well, if you can manage to pull it off, it can be amazing.
Right.
But like I said, the reach, and this is where a lot of the marketing brain people out there get really good at, the numbers. Maybe it's a different personality type that's really good at knowing like, if you want to reach X amount of people, then you're going to get 1% conversion on blah 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 and stuff. And then, people that know how you put these words on the top of your Facebook ad and these words at the bottom, and you have to make sure you have an ask, and you always make sure there's a call to action, and you have to have an image because the images the videos do better than the images, and the images do better than plain text, and here's how much you should pay per click. And I feel like there's people who are really good at that, and I feel like it's good to know that you need someone like that and when to bring them in.
Right.
But it sucks trying to be an artist and try and learn all that by fire.
Right. We shouldn't focus as artists. I don't think we should be focusing on those things. We should be focusing on our art,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like we have to have those things, so ideally in the ideal world, we hire somebody to make that all happen.
Right. And it's like, had you made your goal, then your videographer would have been worth every penny.
Sure.
But that's the thing. And this is what I'm learning about what I do is like, I'm also understanding now, I'm not just a music producer, recording engineer guy. I'm also an entrepreneur.
Right.
And entrepreneurs, when I've studied them, they look at life completely different than the average person. Most people are like, hey, I'm going to put in 40 hours and on Friday I get my paycheck and then I'm going to go like party for the weekend. That's like their mindset. Like I work, you pay me. Where the other approach in entrepreneurship is like you take a big risk, but you put together a plan that you hope is like, it's like proving a theory in science. Like you put together this theory and then you test it, right? You don't know if it's going to be true. You don't know if you're going to be able to verify it, but, sometimes in entrepreneurship, you test out different assumptions and you see what's going to work, and you tweak it and you tweak it and you tweak it. And the thing is that I know, not very many, performers have that mindset.
Sure.
It's kind of like, I mean, maybe I suppose if you're like used to playing a lot of gigs and you bomb a couple gigs and you realize you tweak what, I think that's the closest analogy I can come up with. You tweak what's not working until everybody's vibing on it.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, with business. It's just a different kind of feedback. You don't get this, like, I think as artists, we're used to this like human, like individual feedback like you get with your friends or family. Like, if I say something, you laugh, then I know you liked it. Or if you smile, or if you're kind of looking at me funny, I know it's not so good. When you're in the cold market of selling music to fans on the internet, you don't get those kind of feedback. It's not very touchy-feely. So the people who excel at that are the like left brain, rational, analytical number people, because they can look at things like, click-through rates, and they can determine what a group of people are doing based on those metrics, where like you and I would kind of not like look at it and go, I don't know, I just see a bunch of numbers on a page. I don't get it.
I see a bunch of squigglies.
Someone make me a chart. But I do have a point. But the point is that like, when, a lot of times when artists fail at something that's not in their depth, it's just not in their depth. There's like, was that a bee behind you or something? It's like I don't know, flying ant.
Yeah, it's like a bee or a fly or something.
All right. Well, if it stings Adam, you'll hear it.
It's like a tiny bee. I don't know.
Tiny bee. But yeah. So anyway, to kind of wrap it up, like I think that the entrepreneurial mindset is a different animal, and it takes. I mean, it took me to kind of realize that I have to be the CEO of my own endeavors to kind of like change the way I looked at what I was doing. And I feel like that is the opportunity that's presented to bands and artists these days, is that you kind of get to be your own entrepreneur with the tools out there. You can easily use MailChimp to have a mailing list and do all these things that you could be doing. The tools have never been easier, but you can't look at yourself as just an artiste if you want to. I mean, you could, and maybe some people should, but you could
if you have people that you're able to hire, but
right. But
if not, you kind of have to do pretty much everything. And then
I feel like the people who are really successful now at music in this independent world are the people who understand a little bit of entrepreneurship and treat their business like they're the CEO of their own business, is their band or their music.
Right.
And I'll share this and then we'll change the topic. But, for me, what I understood after reading 15 years of business books finally clicked for me is like, if you're trying to do everything, you're a bad business person.
Right.
No successful CEO builds his own product, runs his own finances, cleans his own factory, does, drives his own delivery van. You can't. Like, at some point, you're going to get too maxed out. There's only a certain amount of bandwidth that human beings have. We may be kind of infinite among the cosmos, outside of ourselves, but in this reality, in this dimension, part of the fun of planet Earth experience is limitation and how to transcend that, how to express your divine big nature in this small body, and how to make an impact and an influence for the good. I hope, that's what I'm about. But, in this fashion that sort of like, there's only so much time in a day. I think that is the human experience. It's only 24 hours in a day. And
365 days
you
in
can
a year.
try not sleeping, but good luck with that for very long.
Yeah, you'll start to hallucinate.
Yeah, which, could be fun for a minute, but
yeah.
But it doesn't feel good. I've stayed way too much on, especially on your albums, man. Like, I'm kind of done with all-nighters. I don't know how we're going to...
Yeah. You have to go back to drinking the rock stars.
Oh, my God. Rock stars. We did so many rock stars.
Did a lot of rock stars.
I think that's why I have heart palpitations now.
I just sounded like a groupie. We did a lot of rock stars. That's what the groupie said. Wait, no.
That's what she said. Well, Adam, thanks for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was amazing.
I'm honored to be on your very first podcast that you don't even have a name for.
Yeah. What was that? Creative? I can't even remember what you said. It was amazing. I'll have to rewind the tape. I'll have to rewind the proverbial tape.
The language of creativity.
The language of creativity. I love it. Yes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your band and give us a little ID or an ask of the crowd if you would like to.
Oh, yes. So I have a band. It's more of a project than a band, but every now and then we perform live, and we're working on a couple new singles right now. In fact, after we get
new singles
done, after we get done with this,
that's
podcast,
what we're supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, I think we got a little. This is interesting. It
the
side
track is the main track. That's what I'm realizing. Sometimes you need to like connect with the fun part, so you don't get through that.
Too much to do on the tracks. We just have to. Finish
almost
editing.
Ready for vocals, man.
Yeah, we could do some vocals next week, and then I got to talk to Rich and see what his schedule is.
By the time this airs, it may already be done.
But,
so where can people find you?
So we have our first album that we were talking about, Time and Space. They can find us at lobatescarp.com. So,
LOBATESCARP.
You got it, lobatescarp.com, or you go to Bandcamp and look for Lobate Scarp. And we're on the Spotify's and the Apple Musics and all that stuff too. And when we came out with a single called "Beautiful Light" a couple of years ago, so and that's out.
The lyric video is beautiful.
There's a lyric video on YouTube, so we're pretty much all over the internets.
Yeah. And where do people follow you on Twitter? Do you do Twitter anymore?
We do Twitter. Yeah, actually, I feel like we do pretty well on Twitter. There's a lot of people that find out about us through Twitter.
So at Lobate Scarp.
Just at Lobate Scarp. Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening to this and you want to tweet Adam Sears at Lobate Scarp on Twitter, and
tweet me.
You can just share about the mysteries of the universe, and
on Instagram you could see Steve and I in the studio at work on what we're working on now, and and we're gonna have a single come out in I believe at the end of May or June.
Yeah.
Then another one come out in July, and then if all goes well, we'll have an album out by the end of the year.
My Instagram at iCreateSound, and yeah, gosh, the only thing that if you want to tweet Adam about dark matter, it was I was trying to make a Futurama reference. At that point,
good.
So
yeah, I'm at Adam Sears 32 on Twitter and Instagram. So if you want to look for me there, you could send me a message, and we could talk a couple hours about dark matter and dark energy and all that crazy stuff.
Well, right on. We're going to get to work in the studio on this next couple bit of tracks, and we hope that all of you will like and subscribe Lobate Scarp. Find them on Facebook and follow them for more news about the latest releases. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.